It is Wednesday. That means it is time for a Wednesday night live here on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. A little bit different lineup tonight. You got me as usual. You got Justin as usual. But we got Paul Wadlington sitting in for us tonight. Paul, it's mountain time there. Still a little bit brighter, but appreciate you hopping on.
My pleasure.
We'll have to get all the Colorado State inside info from you. I guess closer to the season.
I've got the real scoop on what's going on in Fort Collins. Let me tell you, fellas.
If you want that inside info, you got to head to InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code IT1. That'll get you 2 months of Inside Texas for just $1. We're talking today. It is May 15th. That'll get you through July 15th. That means you get through official visit season, through some summer workouts, and probably through some commitments as well at that point after kitchen table time. We'll get the housekeeping out of the way. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And of course, this video is sponsored by Gabe Winslow, our friend at Mortgages by Gabe. And Paul, you know all the details when it comes to Gabe Winslow.
Yeah, I'm no hard sell on the live stream, but Gabe's really sharp, Longhorn alum, as passionate about Texas as we are, over 20 years in the industry. And he's a mortgage broker, which means that he's able to shop at 70 different lenders to get you the best deal. And he is very conscientious about what he does. He puts his name on everything. And I think you'll enjoy working with him a lot more than working with a big bank. So give Gabe a call. See if he can help you out. 832-557-1095.
Absolutely. Let me get this off here. There you go.
Did you see who's one of the new players for Colorado State?
No.
Fill me in.
Armani Winfield.
That's right. He famously committed to Texas in the middle of Alabama's national championship game and decommitted in the middle of a Texas game one time. But we'll get to y'all's questions. Make sure you load them up. We got some on the Inside Texas message board, got some in the comments. Drew had he had an event with his family he had to go to. Eric has another event with his family he had to go to. But we have some recruiting video interviews lined up for y'all. Justin, you made your way through East Texas, got to talk to Ricky Stewart and Zion Williams. Our Charlie Williams, who is at, I think, Red Oak right now, he got to talk to John Turntine, one of the top prospects in the 2026 class. So we'll get those going, and we will start with Zion Williams.
Here in Lufkin, at the spring game, the last spring for Mr. Zion Williams here in Lufkin. He's going to graduate early, class of 2025. What's it like for your last spring going through with your boys, your coaches, just the whole thing?
It's honestly a little bittersweet. I'm going to cry when I get back home. But, yeah, man, it was fun while it lasted. Got to really meet some great people through this. Still got this last season, so I'm a for real feel it when that last game hit, regardless of how far we make it. But, yeah, I enjoyed it while it lasted. It was real fun.
And that's what you're supposed to, man. You know, you're getting the most out of being with your brothers, being with your family, and then you'll be heading off to college. You got some official visits coming up.
Yes, I do.
What's the next one?
The next one's to LSU. Then the week after that, I think it is Arkansas, then A&M, then UT. I think UT's last.
Texas is going to be your
last. Yes, sir.
That's right. Tell me a little bit about LSU. They've been in the mix for a while. Bo Davis has built a great bond with you. What's that? How's that turning out?
Me and Coach Bo have been talking since he was at UT, and I think he had a head start before everybody because he was the first coach who I've really gotten to just know well, and he knows me well as a person. But yeah, UT feels like the parts, or not UT. LSU feels like the parts of my town where I grew up around. And that's a weird feeling because I've never been to Baton Rouge before. And that was a little weird to feel. I was like, oh, man, this feels familiar. I swear I've been here before, but I haven't. And that was a little weird to feel. Yeah. But getting to hang out with the coach at LSU, they're great people. Coach Bo's another great guy. It's been fun down there so far.
You got Texas as your last official visit, squeezed in between Arkansas and A&M. Kenny Baker's coming to see you tomorrow. He's going to be on campus to see specifically you. How's that relationship building, and what are you looking forward to hearing from him?
I just want to hear how he's been. I could care less about the football part. Coach Baker, from what I've seen, the 3-4 times I've seen him, He's a great person overall. He's a genuinely good dude. He checks up on me every so often, and I really appreciate it. But I just want to talk to him. That's it. Nothing about football. If we can keep it to a minimum football basis, I'd love that.
What is going to be, you've got so many reasons and so many schools you can pick from. What's going to be the number one factor for you when you make your decision finally?
I've been thinking about it, and it's just maybe one day it'll click for me, but I haven't had that click feeling, if that makes sense. And I think I'm gonna have to just sit down and think about it after maybe my last OV. So I'm gonna for sure decide before my season starts. That is going to be a promise. But
you're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm still personally trying to figure that out. Like once I've gotten to all these schools, not gonna lie to you, they all feel the same, just different colors. So I really got to figure out who I want to surround myself with and secure my spot on the roster with, and like just further my future as a football player and a student athlete.
Justin, that was recorded yesterday, and that means Kenny Baker came through today. Any insight from Lufkin or from Williams on that visit?
Not yet. We were exchanging some text earlier. We're going to catch up here a little bit later. But, the biggest thing was with Zion, he just wants to get to know Kenny Baker better. Bo got a head start in that relationship. All recruiting are based off relationships. But with this particular kid, he's very relationship centered. It's just a strong thing for him. You're talking about a kid that's got 11 brothers and sisters. You're talking about a kid that this is college football is going to change his family's life. And so he is really wanting to make the right call. He's wanting to make that right decision. And so Kenny Baker's doing a great job just getting to know each other, because I think that's going to be, once the official visits are done at the end of June, Joe, I think that's going to be the tale. This is going to be a Texas LSU battle through and through. TCU, A&M, Arkansas, they'll be in the mix, but this is going to come down to Texas and LSU, and Baker's got to continue. You just can't let up, because LSU's not letting up.
It's always good to hear in these big recruitments, and a lot of more twists and turns on that one. Before we keep going with more recruiting intel, got to shout out our friend Brett Nelson. Paul, A&M and OU win total. What do you think? And so I'm checking out FanDuel. Don't know your book of choice. The Sooners are at 7.5 wins. A little bit more juice to the under. The Aggies at 8.5 wins, even more juice to the under. In comparison, Texas still sits at 10.5. So kind of curious what you think on at least betting those win totals for Oklahoma and A&M. 7.5 for OU, 8.5 for the Aggies.
Tell me the actual numbers for OU.
For Oklahoma, 7.5 plus 100 on the over. The under is minus 122.
So that you'd want to bet the over on that, just because of the disparity. You're not getting any reward for OU underachieving at minus 120.
Are you sure?
That said, it's a stay away. I would not bet that. That seems like an accurate total. A&M, you said it's 8.5?
8.5. The over is plus 114. The under is minus 142.
I mean, minus 142, what are you getting out of that? There's no value. And A&M has the most favorable SEC schedule that you can find. It's very favorable. So is it possible that Connor Wegman is healthy and plays well, plays up to his potential? Is Mike Elko going to improve that defense? Yes. So again, the juicing of those numbers, that's purposely designed to create a disparity in betting, right? Where people are going to not want to bet the over on A&M. And if you do hit on the under, you're not really getting rewarded for your money. So I don't find those very attractive. The more interesting team win totals that I think you should take a look at, Brett, take a look at the Washington Huskies and take a look at Colorado and take a look at Nebraska. The Nebraska over is actually surprisingly appealing, whereas the Washington under is probably more likely to hit than not. I think people don't fully understand how much that program has been gutted.
The one that really caught my eye just on a quick scroll before we get back to, we got Ricky Stewart and John Turntime lined up. Florida, 4.5. Times are tough in Gainesville. It's just bad news.
Four might be tough, Joe.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, from a power ranking standpoint, given their schedule, which is just brutal, and Texas being a big part of why it's brutal, right? They could go 7-5 and be the 15th or 16th best team in the country, legitimately, and that's just insane. I mean, I can't imagine that. So I don't know by what metric you're going to judge Billy Napier, but I can tell you this: if they go 4-8, they're hiring a new coach and a new AD. By the way,
they better play Lagway early. He's going to have to play Lagway as a freshman. I feel like that's his last get out of jail free card if he's playing Monopoly. Play Lagway, show some of the future, some of the promise. Man, that bunch. It's tough times in Gainesville.
But that future and promise is going to be for another coach, because the games they're most likely to win are early, and Lagway is going to struggle as a true freshman early. Yeah. So now you might blow the games that you could have won, and then you're going to still lose to Texas. You're going to still lose to Georgia. That's a tough deal for Billy Napier. He has not done a good job coaching there, but holy cow, that's a tough situation. That's a brutal schedule.
It feels like he's been having to dig himself out since the Jaden Rashada stuff. Maybe I'm off, but it just feels like that was kind of the tipping point, and it's just slowly tilted down the hill ever since.
It's a lot of anxiety, especially on week 1 where they play Miami for the Gators. But we'll continue on. Justin, you were at Chapel Hill today, not too far away from your house. Got to talk to Ricky Stewart, a pledge in the 2025 class for the Longhorns. Oddly enough, as he'll explain, his side of the ball, or his team, lost in the spring game, and he took that a little tough.
He wasn't happy. He was not happy.
He still had some pretty strong things to say about the Longhorns.
Here in Chapel Hill for their spring game 2024, and I'm with 4-star running back Ricky Stewart, Texas commit. It's your last spring with your guys, Ricky. Is this a little bittersweet for you?
Man, I took the L, but man, we are one big team, Bulldog. So we gotta learn from our mistakes, and then just play hard together in the real season. Try to go back far.
That's it. The real season. You guys have made a habit of going deep into the playoffs and even the state championship game last season. Is that the ultimate goal this year, getting back to Arlington and making that last stand as a senior?
Yes, sir. Getting back to Arlington and actually win it this time. Try to.
There you go. There you go. Hey, your recruitment's over. You committed to Texas a few months ago at practice. Coach Choice came through here recently. What was his message for you now that you're a Texas commit?
Really, he was happy still. He was just like recording me everything we did, and then he was like basically like teaching me like work. Like he was like trying to tell me teach on my work on my cuts and stuff. Yeah. And like did some other stuff like fundamentals.
How much has that relationship grown with him? I mean, not just football wise, but off the field.
They're grown a lot. Like he's a great dude, great man, and a man I love to be around.
What about Coach Sark? You hear from him much? What's the message from that staff? Because they know you're in the bag now.
I haven't really heard from him much, but he the same as Coach Troy. Really like good heart, a good man, and he teaches more than just football. His family around there.
You're going to try to enroll early. You're not doing it yet, but that's the plan, to try to get out of here by January and get into Austin soon.
Yes, sir.
Man, we sure do appreciate you.
Absolutely do appreciate that from Ricky Stewart. Like you mentioned, Tashard Choice staying in touch, and obviously Texas is trying to get James Simon as their top target, but Ricky Stewart provides a pretty strong, combination and a floor for that position in the 2025 class at running back, doesn't he, Justin?
He does. I mean, he makes a lot of sense. He fits what they want. He fits their style. He's really good out of the backfield. I posted a video on InsideTexas.com. Come see us and check it out. He made an incredible catch in the spring game. It just kind of shows you he's just a competitor. He did not. Listen, Ricky did me a favor today, because usually he doesn't say a whole lot anyway. But taking that L, he was not happy. And you want that in Austin. You want that in the locker room. That he can't wait to get there because of like-minded people. and he's going to fit. He's going to fit there, not just because of his personality, but because of the way he runs the ball. He's got 70 touchdowns in the last 3 years. He's one of those low center of gravities, inside out guys, can do a little bit of both. And so I think James Simon would be a great cap to him and Stewart as a 2 running back class this year. And then Texas goes all in 2026 for guys like Javion Osborne, Tredarian Ball, and KJ Edwards. And so Choice keeps doing his thing. He finds guys he wants. He builds great relationships, and he closes the deal. And I think that's why Ricky was pretty effortless.
One more interview to go over. That's with John Turntine, a 2026 prospect. On3, I think, has him as the number 8 overall prospect in the class right now, future offensive lineman. And he had some pretty interesting news and updated us on his visit plans to Texas. Here's that video.
Here with 2026 offensive lineman, 4-star offensive lineman, John Turntine III at North Crowley. Man, how's it going?
It's going good. You know, we came out here today, get work. You know, this is one of our last weeks, so we just come out here, get better, get ready for summer.
Yeah, I see like a host of schools out here. You got Michigan, Houston, some other ones, man. Like, how does it feel like to have all this attention and still perform like you don't even see them on the sideline?
It's just, I mean, that's just the standard for me. I don't let it get to me because I can't if I let it get to me, it's gonna mess up my craft and what I do. So I just ignore it, and just when time comes, I'll focus on that. But right now, I know where I need to be focusing, and it's just I just put my head there.
Most definitely. How would you say your relationship with Coach Flood in Texas and Coach Sark and anybody down in Austin?
It's pretty early with all the relationship, you know, but it's going good. You know, I'm going out there definitely. This is for June for one of their camps, so I'll be out there, get to spend the day with the coaching staff and Coach Flood after the camp and everything. So, but it's still early, and then I'm just looking forward to building it even more.
I would say during the camps, what are you looking for the most as far as them like coaching you, teaching you? What are you looking to gain from just attending the camps?
I want to see their coaching style. You know, this will be like one of my first ones. Well, not one of them, but one of the first ones I go to Texas. So I get to see how Coach Flood his technique, what he's going to help me with, and just the exposure. You know, that's really what it's all about.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. It sounds like y'all talk often, or he tried to DM you or text you. So, yeah, relationship is still building. So I really appreciate your time letting me come out here. I know you got to go to lunch, but
appreciate that from Coach Williams. Justin, that's going to be one of the best prospects in the country in the next couple of years. And Texas getting him on campus on June 8th, I believe, for a big man camp is pretty big news.
Huge. It's huge. He's the best player in the state for 2026. He's going to have the opportunity to go to any school he wants to. And the thing about him is he doesn't let it go to his head. Like we've got to talk to him and his family before. And he's got a little brother in 8th grade that looks like he's going to be a dude too. But they don't take themselves too serious. A lot of times with these top 10 upper echelon 5-star guys, their head starts getting big. They start getting arrogant. They love to jump on social media for the attention. Turntine is the exact opposite of all of that. He is a very quiet, you know, just self-motivated kid with a great family, and whoever gets him. And I guarantee you, once we get through the season of 2024 and the class of 2025 signs, there's going to be some angst in 2026 cycle, because every Texas fan is going to beg that John Turntine winds up in that class. And they've done a great job. They were early. Flood's done did a really good job on the early evaluation. And again, he hasn't let it go to his head. He reminds me of Michael Fasusi a lot, the offensive tackle out of Louisville. Just enjoys the process, grateful for the moment. And just be prepared. When 2026 cycle really gets full steam, Texas fans, that's the guy you're going to want in this class.
We are about to start going through questions, but Paul, one more time, tell the people about Gabe Winslow and what Mortgages by Gabe can do for them.
Well, if you want John Turntine in an orange house, he's to call this guy. You can get him into a house. Get him into a house at a great rate. Give him a call, 832-557-1095. On to the questions.
We got a lot of good ones. Got to go with the ones on the Inside Texas members only message board first. Got one from Lulu Longhorn. Goes, where do you see the trap games? And I don't agree 100% with the premise of this question, but I think it's a good thing to go over. To me, there's two. One is Vanderbilt. The other is Kentucky. I don't see it with the Commodores because they have half a stadium and it's going to be mostly burnt orange. Kentucky does make a little bit more sense. They have talented wide receiver in Dane Key. They have they're trying their luck again in the transfer portal market at quarterback with Brock Vandegrift. That one is at home. Can't remember exactly where it falls on the schedule, but Vanderbilt, yeah, it's late. It's in November. Vanderbilt, probably not. Kentucky, I think that one makes the most sense. What do you think, Paul?
If Vanderbilt's a trap game, they're all trap games, and we're in a lot of trouble.
What about that quarterback?
Pavia?
Diego Pavia is going to go out there and play hard. Texas fans will both hate him and love and respect him. But Texas at Arkansas could be interesting if you're looking at like a classic trap game, because Arkansas is not going to be very good, but they do have a new quarterback in Green who is a dual threat. And Sam Pittman's going to be coaching for his job. The only reason he didn't get fired last year is they couldn't afford it. So if you beat Texas, though, in Fayetteville, that counts for a lot, even if you go 5-7 or 6-6 or whatever they do. So I don't know. I think we got our hands full with the marquee games, frankly. And I think we're getting to where we're going to be a program where there aren't going to be clear trap games, any given Saturday, obviously. But I think that the games I've got circled I'm worried about are, Georgia, Michigan, OU, A&M. I think the same ones that everyone else is thinking of.
Justin, do you see one? I have one that I'm thinking of for a little bit different reason.
You already mentioned it, Kentucky, because they have sneaky athletes every cycle, and they send guys to the league every year. Like, people don't realize how many defenders from Kentucky are playing in the NFL. Like, they do a good job, and I feel like the Stoops brothers might have a little something cooked up. I could see Bob calling Mark with a little bit of intel if he so pleases.
I think Mike is on that staff too. Now, mine's a little bit different, and it's for a little bit different reason. I'm going to say that first SEC game against Mississippi State, and it's not because I fear Blake Shapen. It's not really because I think there's a lot of talent at Mississippi State right now. But Pete Kwiatkowski has struggled with the veer and shoot at Texas. And Jeff Lebby, his Sooner offense, helped the Sooners win the Red River Shootout last year. And I bet, at that point in the year, it's going to be late September. Texas is going to be looking maybe forward to that bye and then to the stretch of OU, Georgia, and then the other bye, I believe. I wouldn't just – and I know that it's the SEC home opener. Everybody's going to be up for that game. But I would not discount Mississippi State just because of what Jeff Lebby's been able to do to Pete Kwiatkowski in particular.
Quick note on Mississippi State. They lose all of their production on defense. So, they might move the ball some, but I think Texas is going to put a number that starts with a 4 on the scoreboard. And so
their leading returning receiver is from Tyler Junior College, Kelly Akari. And,
he played college football in between then, Justin.
Tyler is a college.
He played at UTEP.
I understand that.
All right.
From Tyler Junior College.
All right.
He's seeing all the sites.
It all goes back to East Texas. That's what we know.
One more from the full circle here, Paul. That and Gabe Winslow, we're full circle here.
One more from the message board on Inside Texas. Justin, I'll direct this your way. I feel like it's a tough one to answer. Who are the defensive tackles in the 2025 class?
If I had that answer, I'd be a rich man. And I'm not, and I don't. I think Texas is figuring it out. I think Texas is still trying to figure it out. They might hold on to Brandon Brown. I think they could hang on to Brandon Brown. He could be in this class. I like Chase Sims from Richmond. I think he's a guy that winds up in this class. But ultimately, if Zion Williams signs, it's a success, and they're going to have to take 3 or 4. They really do need to stock up more on that position. But man, give me those 3 right now. I'll take Zion Williams, I'll take Brandon Brown, and I'll take Chase Sims. If you get those 3, Kenny Baker does. Those are skins on the wall. Kenny Baker is no longer taking it on the chin on message boards. Joe and his mute button is
Man, it's tough.
fanatical. Like,
I'm
I don't
glad
know why you mute it. You got dogs behind you barking or something?
I just don't want to hear people typing, or people to hear me typing. UT Parking says Zion belongs at Texas. You got Roaster coming right back saying, imagine Zion ending up with Scrooge at LSU. So that's the big recruitment to watch, at least at that position. We'll start going through some of the other questions. This one also from Roaster. Who's the sleeper in the SEC that everybody is selling short? Honestly, I could be the team that Texas plays at the end of the year. What do you think, Paul?
I think other than Oklahoma or A&M, I think the SEC is so covered, it's difficult to be a sleeper, right? So some people say, well, it's going to be Ole Miss. Well, actually, Ole Miss is getting a ton of hype as a sleeper, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and for me to offer Alabama as a sleeper, even though they're not considered to be contending for the title this year, is Alabama. I mean, can you say with a straight face that Alabama is a sleeper? I mean, not really. So, I think the real sleeper would be A&M or OU. If they had a big year, it would be shocking, right? It would be impressive and surprise a lot of people. Missouri is actually going to be in the mix for quite deep into like November.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of that schedule related. And then I think they'll get found out or revealed. But I think I have, full disclosure, I've got money on them making the playoff. I made that bet before their bowl game last year. Or was that still this year? Whatever. I made their bet on the 2023 season. They lines had just come out for 2024, and I made a bet that they'd make the playoffs. And I like my position in that bet. So, but that Missouri's a team I'm going to ride hard early and then fade late when they start playing better teams.
It all kind of depends on health at quarterback and then also health at Luther Burden, not just wide receiver in general, but him specifically staying healthy. The reason I said Texas A&M is because they have a pretty generous schedule, and you kind of look back at how Jimbo was very out there. He was always willing to talk. The recruiting class did a lot of talking for him. He had to talk to defend that recruiting class. Obviously, kind of goes downhill from there. Mike Elko's operated way differently. Like, he's just kind of been he's been quiet, at least compared to Jimbo, and at least compared to how other first-year hires at A&M have kind of come in and be like, we're going to do this. He has not said much, and the thing is, there's still a good amount there from those classes. Not all of them, not the superstars, but some good bones there to where if Connor Weigman stays healthy, that'll be a very interesting game at the end of the year and make the return of the rivalry pretty fun. But if that's the sleeper, they're not the shoe-in SEC contender that we're thinking of right now, along with, like you said, Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, even Missouri probably in that category. They're in the sleeper category. Let's see. Justin got one for you. Not a lot to negatively recruit Texas with at the moment, but if you had to point out one or two position groups whose recruiting might be lagging at this point, which would they be?
Oh, that's a good question, Ryan. My first thing that pops up is tight end. And I think Jeff Banks, if you're a 5-star, he's going to offer you. If you're a high 4-star, he has no problem where you're from, what you're doing, or anything. He's going to make an attempt to bring you to Austin. And they've got, Amari Winston in this class already out of Calhoun, Georgia. They're in the mix for Keati Armstrong out of Jasper, Nick Townsend out of Spring Decaney. I know there's a lot of talk going around with that recruitment, but tight end to me, it's a little lagging. Like, Gunnar Helm has developed into a bona fide college starter. And his goal this year is to fill in JT Sanders' shoes and be all conference. After that, it's a drop, like significant drop. Now, Amari Niblack, they bring him in. That could be a change. But if I'm another coach, I might, and this is being very nitpicky at this point. Like he said, there's not a whole lot you can negatively recruit against Texas. Tight end would be one of them. And honestly, not to jump on Kenny Baker, but defensive tackle. Like, people they want results right now, and he's been on the job 3.5 months, and that's just not going to happen. He's got to get inundated into the program and get his own board up and get his own relationship with these guys. And so those are really the only two I can think of. Everywhere else, they are nailing evaluations and early recruitments pretty often. So I'd say tight end on one side, defensive line on the other.
One of the things that's new is that negative recruiting is not going to go away. It just looks a little bit different. So let's say you're, I don't know, an offensive lineman or maybe even a cornerback. They're not going to say, oh, you're not going to get developed. Oh, you're not going to get – they're going to say, don't go there. You won't play until your junior year. New problems to have. And that's the one Texas seems to be facing a lot. Have a super chat from Freelance Society. Which regular season game has Sark been game planning the most? It was Bama last year. Well, that game was in week 2, Paul, and I think the one that he's game planning the most this year, this offseason, is in week 2 of the 2024 campaign.
Yeah, it's Michigan. And actually, the reason he can do that with some confidence is because the greatest challenge he's going to face is the Michigan defense, which could be the best defense Texas plays all year. And, they lost a lot. They replaced them with a lot. Trust me on that one. The Michigan offense, they may struggle a little bit. So the real battle here for Texas is if you can go to Ann Arbor and score some points, you're gonna leave with the W. And so that is going to be something that I think Sark's going to be pulling film on in the offseason, looking at this summer. Makes sense that he'd look at a little OU because you don't want to be 1-3 in that game in your 4th year at Texas. And then he's going to be looking at some Georgia, obviously. But the thing is, because those games happen later, you kind of have to wait till the season unfolds because you don't want to scout and make plans for guys that aren't even on the team because, some guy blows out his knee in late September on OU, right? So Michigan is going to get the lion's share of prep simply because of where it falls on the schedule. And then I think Sark will be taking a look at a lot of different stuff, but I think Michigan, particularly because that defense represents such an interesting challenge in terms of personnel and scheme, blitz happy, which Sark will view as both scary and a big opportunity. So it's going to be fun, and I guarantee you Sark is already looking at some cut-ups.
Good point from Ryan Nelson. The War Daddies are all still there on that Michigan defense. Grant, Graham, Will Johnson. They just lose Sanders still as far as star power. But, yeah, and I think it's interesting you bring that up with Wink Martindale. It's that similar system that they've had, that, Mike McDonald system that kind of went back and forth between the Harbaugh coaching staffs. Martindale, he's, I guess, kind of the crazy cousin. He likes to blitz a lot compared to what McDonald and even some of the other ones. Minter didn't blitz because he didn't really have to. Wink likes to blitz, and I'm curious to see how Sark handles that one. Thank you for that super chat. Go ahead, Justin.
Wink Martindale. That sounds like a name of a game show host. Like I keep waiting for what door. What?
There is a Wink Martindale game show host. That is not the Michigan defensive coordinator. I forget his real first name.
His real name is Don Martindale.
Are you sure? Because Washington State's defensive coordinator Pat Sajak may have something to say. You never know. These guys changing their careers, Joe.
And cornerbacks coach Vanna White. This is a good one. Jacob Woodyard, is our secondary going to be better this year?
Yes.
I think that one's pretty easy.
An older Derek Williams, thank you. I will take a dose of that. An older Malik Muhammad, shoot me up with more of that. Give me a hot dose of that. This secondary is going to be better just because they're a year older and a year more experienced.
Yeah, and they better be, because we just recorded a deep dive that's going to be released tomorrow morning, shameless plug, which we're going to go through the SEC quarterbacks that we're going to face and the SEC quarterbacks and top receivers in general. And, man, the SEC is loaded at quarterback with experience and talent. So we better be improved or it's going to be ugly. But, and Justin's exactly right. We've got 2 maturing homegrown fellas. And then we brought in a guy from Clemson who knows a little something about winning games and coverage in Makuba. He's going to be a huge asset for us. So we better be better, and we should be better.
And number one, Barron came back. Nothing's more important to that secondary than Jahdae Barron coming back.
I think it's one of those things where you don't doubt the talent. It's just putting it all together. Like, I don't doubt Malik Muhammad. I don't doubt Javion Cole, Andrew Makuba, Michael Tapp, Derek Williams, Jade Barron. Like,
Better not doubt Michael Taff. That's a sin in some places in this state.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, we didn't struggle last year with the passing game against Houston and Kansas State in the second half because of a lack of talent or talent disparity. They weren't on the same page. And I think the coaches would tell you that as much and not be defensive about it. Now, when you're talking about the Washington Huskies, I thought there's a couple things we could have tried schematically, but also Washington is real, real good.
That game was a big hat tip for me. Like, there were some times when Ryan Watts was right there on Jalen McMillan and Rome Odunze. Those guys are NFL receivers. They just make the catch, and you can do everything right and still not have the play go your way.
Penix was the right hand, was the left-handed Warren Moon that night. He was unbelievable.
Got a good question from Ryan. Can you guys give one position group on the team fans are overestimating and one group they are underestimating? Well, I could say quarterback and throw this thing into a frenzy. But what do y'all think on this one? I'm curious where this one goes. I feel like we talk about all these positions enough to where we nail them down pretty accurately. I feel like maybe underestimating. I don't know. Where do y'all think on this one, Paul?
Ryan, I can tell maybe you're not an Inside Texas reader, because our job is to have you properly estimate all the position groups. So that's going to be my answer. But if I'm going to indulge your question, I don't think that we have an overestimating group. If you're asking me to speak for Joe Fan, who's not an Inside Texas member, I would say they probably think the offensive line is being overestimated, and they're probably wrong. Who are they underestimating? So they're underestimating the offensive line. Who are they overestimating?
Maybe linebacker play.
Maybe linebacker, because Anthony Hill will be asked to be doing some harder stuff.
Yeah, new role, new responsibility.
We need Benda to really come up big in his final season, which I think he will. And then I think we need some younger depth guys like LaFau to really come through. So, hey, Ryan, become an Inside Texas reader, and everything will be properly estimated and calibrated to a fine precision.
IT1 on Inside Texas gets you 2 months for $1. And who knows, there may even be a book or two coming out later this summer that can help you get that information more. Justin,
that's the thing I look forward to every year.
One of the best things is always on a trip anytime I go on a trip, like right before the season starts, which seems to happen way too often, that's my reading. And I can get through thinking Texas football on a flight, and it works.
I get the paperback so I can put it on my coffee table along with Ian's Flyover Football, my man Dr. Taylor's Draw the Line, Coach Boyette's Rules of Basketball. It's part of the grouping of my living room. Always thinking Texas football. Paul Wallington.
Can't wait to see the cover athlete. Chris Bennett says, did Roschon Johnson help recruit Jackson Christian? And Justin, you can probably speak to this one, not directly, because Roschon Johnson has a second year in the NFL to get ready with and a new quarterback in Caleb Williams to learn to operate with. But I'm sure the fact that one of the best players in Port Neches Grove's history had a lot of success at Texas influenced Jackson Christian, in addition to the efforts from Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, and everybody involved.
It helps. I don't think he was directly involved. I don't think it was like Reggie Bush calling Joe McKnight the night before signing day and basically, begging him to come to USC and spurn the hometown LSU Tigers. I don't think he did that. But, he's been through P&G. He had a big camp there last month, and he's hosting another one, I believe, in June. And so I guarantee you Coach Joseph has him coming in and talking to the team. The funniest thing about Roschon Johnson is that you would bring him in to talk to the team when he was there. Like, you needed a motivational speaker. Here's the junior quarterback, Roschon Johnson, at P&G to talk to the team. He was that guy for a long time. Brendan Faircloth still raves about him, the former head coach at P&G. He's at Sulphur Springs now. I'm sure it helped. I don't think there was anything direct, but hey, Roschon Johnson's always he's Mr. P&G. I can assure you of that. And so for the next 10 years, all those kids coming up, growing up, playing football, competing in athletics in that area, Rashawn Johnson's going to be the standard, and they're going to remember the burnt orange in number 2.
I'm trying to remember. I know Jonathan Brooks won Mr. Texas football in 2021. I'm trying to think
Did Whittington win it?
I don't know if it was. That may have been Jackson Smith
championship game. I don't think he did.
It may have been Jackson Smith and Jigba, Demetrius David. I'm looking at a semifinalist list, or Marvin.
Where are you going with this?
Nowhere. Let's keep on going. Jackson Miles. Do most 5-stars peak in high school? I feel like there's a number of 3-star superstars in the NFL that don't peak in college and high school. As like a preliminary answer on this, for the most part, and over at On3, there are only 32 5-stars. So there's a cap every single year on how many 5-stars there are. There are over, I think, 600 or so.
It's about 4. I think it's 400 range.
Right. 3 stars every year.
So Joe,
that speaks to the volume, but Paul, go ahead on the development.
Yeah, I was going to say, we actually did a deep dive on this. So I encourage all of y'all to subscribe to the channel, but go back and look at the deep dive, because we talk about this exact issue in depth, and we break down the statistics and everything involved. About, if I recall correctly, about 40% of 5-stars end up drafted in the NFL. 3-stars, about 6%. So obviously there's many more 3-stars than 5-stars. And so that's kind of the rough breakdown. We actually have the exact numbers, and then we even break them down by position. Justin, you may remember that. And what the recruiting gurus are much better at estimating success at certain positions than others. We're not very good at predicting offensive linemen, generally speaking.
Exactly.
Generally very good at predicting some other positions like edge, stuff
defensive
like that.
Line, edge.
If you're a 5-star edge, there's a high probability you're gonna play in the NFL. So.
And remember what the 5-star means. It means if there's 32 of them, that means they are predicting in 4 to 5 years you are going to be a first-round pick. You're going to be in one of those first 32 picks in the first round. That's essentially what a lot of these recruiting things base that off of. The 5-stars are those 32 guys that go in the first round. I don't think they peak necessarily in high school, but like you said, Joe, there's just so many more 3-stars to pick from. There's always going to be more of those in general. That was a great episode. Please check that out at Deep Dive. I want to say that was last month. But we talk about recruiting in 5-stars. So if you see that on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, please check that out.
Yep. Got over 2,200 in here right now. Appreciate y'all joining. We got a question from Darren Stallings, who is Drop Shot 7 over on the Inside Texas message board. 2-parter. What was the deficiency with defensive backs last year? Was it speed and athleticism? Is there a structural flaw with the defensive scheme against certain alignments and formations? Guys, are we going to point back to, is there another deep dive that we get to point back to on this time? Because I feel like this is one that we talked about. Y'all too have talked about plenty. I want to say something, in Paul, I promise I'm not going to use total yardage, so don't worry. But
I have to explain statistics to Joe one day. He doesn't.
No,
for a young guy, he says old guy stuff all the time.
We're not going to go that far.
Analytics.
But when you can't run on Texas, something backed up by them having the number 3 rush defense, you got to pass. And that led, I think, to, more opportunities to pass.
Exactly.
Probably means more successful pass attempts, just, based off if you're completing 55% of passes, that's still 55 that are hitting, and you're probably hitting for about 8 yards per attempt or something like that. But I mean, just sheer volume of the push and pull of not being able to run and having to pass against Texas, I think led to a lot of that. But Paul, what else do you see as far as I don't think it's a speed or athleticism question. Nick Saban wanted Malik Muhammad as bad as any corner that I can remember in that class, but it seems like it's more, as we've talked about a lot on Inside Texas, matching fronts to defensive secondaries.
Yep, that's part of it. Another part of it is, defensive backs are not the only people who cover. Linebackers cover. And we were deficient in some of that. And some of our schemes require the linebackers to make good decisions, and they were not making good decisions at some points. And then the other part of it, frankly, is there's the scheme itself. And then there's also your positional coaching within that scheme. So the scheme is the choreography of the dance. Your positional coaching is your ability to improvise in the dance when your partner breaks her heel, right? And that's the kind of stuff that we need to see some improvement on. We kind of talked about this, the reason that U of H threw the ball successfully against Texas, the reason that Kansas State destroyed our pass defense in the second half was not because they had massive advantages in athleticism in their passing games. It had to do with them exploiting individual positional issues and also just our greater scheme and how they were covering certain routes, particularly crossers. So all this needs to improve. And if the good news in football, and it's one of the cool things about football, if you incrementally improve in your scheme, you incrementally improve at your position, like the coaching and how you play your position, and you incrementally improve physically. You get a little faster, get a little stronger. You put on 8 pounds of muscle, like Manny Muhammad. All those things come together and you get a little synergy. You actually get more than just the combination of those 3 individual discrete things coming together. You get something greater than the whole. And that's how you can take big leaps as a defense. It's not always numeric and exact. You tend to actually see improvement, and then all of a sudden things come together and you see a big upward slope.
Before we get out of here, go ahead. I was just going to say they were not good with mesh. Oh, no. Hell. Ooh.
Mesh is rough all the time, but they were definitely rough against Houston. Before we get out of here, we have one more question. One more word from Mortgages by Gabe. Gabe Winslow. I'll try it this time, Paul. 832-557-1095. He has access to a lot of different data, and I believe I don't want to mess up the legalese. He has access to offers that not every lender is going to be able to get to you. So call Gabe Winslow, Longhorn in the Houston area, 832-557-1095, mortgagesbygabe.com. We appreciate him a ton for helping not just this program, but a ton of different programs on Inside Texas. Last question, Justin, Paul. I think this is a fun one.
I want this one.
What's y'all's craziest Ajay Hall story? And Justin, Paul and I were talking off air. If y'all didn't see, Ajay Hall walked on at Central Florida, which will be school number 8 for him since the start of his freshman year in high school. So that's going on there. But I'm of the opinion that the craziest Ajay Hall story is the one we all already know about him trying to remove a boot from his car.
That's it. Nothing screams Austin, Texas like a boot on your flipping tire because you parked wrong. Nothing. And you know what Ajay Hall thought? Hell with that. I'm going to remove it myself. And I think that should have been the red flag initially. Okay, wait a minute. What are you doing here? What are you doing? But he's had some other ones that we do not need to talk about on the air. And so I think they're trying to remove a boot. That's some good stuff.
I feel like the best Ajay Hall stories are like the barbershop scene in Coming to America, where he's cutting hair and they're talking about meeting Martin Luther King. Like you just have these ridiculous stories. And so there's some Ajay Hall stories that are bigger than life. I'm not sure how much they're true or not, but I wish him all the best at Central Florida.
That should be interesting. Not a passing offense, but it's still one that hopefully he is able to succeed in. I think that about does it. Thank you for watching this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Make sure you head to InsideTexas.com. Use the promo code IT1. Get 2 months of Inside Texas access for just $1. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Come back tomorrow morning. You can watch the deep dive with Ian, Paul, Justin. You got Inside the Program on Friday. We will have, the roundtable on Saturday and some more recruit reactions, all that. Guys, I'm not going to do an LC and cut y'all off. I'll just cut myself off. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you next time.